and welcome all to the Arsenal Cannon Podcast Extravaganza. This is episode 271. We are coming at you live, literally, on this new platform that we're going to be using to record the podcast called BigUp. This is not going to affect you in any way, shape, or form. By the way, if you listen on Spotify, stuff like that, this literally will not impact you whatsoever. I don't think it'll sound any different. I don't think the show will be any different. We're still going to have the same intro music. It's literally all going to be the exact same. But now if you want to see us performing live and in the flesh, you can do so on bigup.com. You just got to find us, the Arsenal Cannon Podcast, and then you'll be able to do so. Just before we get into the show, also going to say the typical stuff we do at the beginning of every show, housekeeping stuff. Do please feel free to check out the Patreon, which is £3.50 or $5 a month, the price of a lovely London local latte. Got tons of bonus content on there that I think you'll really enjoy. With me today, if you're watching this via BigUp or via the Patreon, where the video is still going to remain as well, you will see who is on this expedition with me today. It is the man, the myth, the legend. It is the guy who I used to call the bumptious Brighton boy, but now I call him the lovely London local lad once again. Alfie Culshaw on the cut. Alfie, what's up, my dude?
What are you saying, lads? Yeah, I'm decent. Extremely excited to be using this platform. And it's a bit nerve-wracking, actually, doing it live. I can see now we've got 4 viewers, so... I can't make a mistake, can't say anything that's going to get me cancelled. Otherwise, it's out there. When it's, not live, we can cut it out. But yeah, shouldn't have to after a win. But yeah, very excited to use some of the tools on this platform, which, if you're a patron subscriber watching this after the live, you'll get to see anyway. But if you're not, you said it will be the exact same for Spotify listeners, but I'm going to encourage them to bun off using Spotify and come and, watch us and listen to us on BigUp. And yeah, as I said, if you do miss the live, you can subscribe to our Patreon and you'll still be able to watch the tactics board. So yeah, we'll get into that and can't wait to discuss Bukayo Saka's return and a good win.
Same here. And yeah, for anybody tuning in live who's maybe never seen our ugly mugs before, welcome. We are the Arsenal Cannon Podcast. We've been doing this for quite a while, but just brand new on BigUp. So big up to you for joining. We appreciate you. And yeah, I guess now is a goodest time as ever to kind of just crack along with the show like we normally do. Live viewers, if we're annoying you in any capacity, feel free to just turn it off and move on with your merry life. But if you like it, you can check us out on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, the Arsenal Cannon Podcast. Alfie, a win's a win, and we'll take it. And we needed a win. I have sensed the kind of depression among the Arsenal fans, just maybe ever since, cat emoji, shout out to you, just ever since the Bukayo Saka injury. And now we have him back, and now other stuff's going wrong. We'll get into that a little bit later. But how just, I guess, to start off simply, just before we get into the general structure of the show, how you feeling with the win? We really needed one as well over Fulham. It kind of seems like they've just had our number recently. So yeah, I guess simple question. Shout right at you, Alfie Culshaw. How you feeling?
Delighted. Honestly, and I think we'll get into the format in a bit, but I think there's a lot of good stuff and also a lot of concerns moving forward. There's obviously the elephant in the room that's going to sort of hang over us, the Gabriel injury, which is pretty depressing to think about. And for a while in that chat yesterday, it was fucking depressing with the way things were going in terms of the injuries. Timber going down as well. Obviously managed to get through it. But yeah, obviously didn't go to this game. I was working it, so I had a bit of a different perspective. Was watching on your Peacock account with my Surfshark VPN. Came in clutch. And yeah, first half I think it was kind of more of the same. More sterile domination, just boring possession. I think we actually defended very well in the first half, and then the second half it went very downhill, and it was more of a basketball match. It was quite a strange, not very Arsenal game in the second half actually. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that, and yeah, just generally delighted to win the game, to get strengthen our grasp on second place, and to to make sure that we aren't dragged into that top 4, top 5 race, and to make sure that we build some momentum ahead of Real Madrid, because I think a negative result in this game or the Everton game is really going to damage the morale heading into that massive game at the Emirates in the first leg.
It would, and yeah, I think at this point of the season, you hit the nail on the head. We need to just make sure that we maintain second place. We are not going to win the Premier League this season. We've all come to terms with that. We've already got the heartbreak. Let's get that out of the way. Let's just make sure we hold on to dear life for second place, because we've got Nottingham Forest, who are having just a fucking great season, man. You have to say they're having a fantastic campaign, obviously, but if you start dropping points, Nottingham Forest could realistically leapfrog you. So this was actually a very important result in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, I fully agree with you. It wasn't the ever typical Arsenal match, but I think in some capacity that's kind of to be expected after an international break. All these guys are just coming back, and look, let's have it right. Fulham, I know the game was at home, but Fulham right after an international break, and while after watching
they obviously had their FA Cup quarterfinal as well, which didn't go well for them.
No. Well, and it was just kind of one of those things too, where we got the extra rest, but we also had to watch everybody else play in the FA Cup. Not everybody else, but a lot of other teams play. And I think that just kind of adds maybe a little bit of pressure and just makes things weird going into the game. And at the end of the day, we got the job done. Playing against Fulham, though at home, is not necessarily ideal. After an international break, you'd probably want somebody that's frankly a bit more shit. But we got the job done in the end, and that's great to see. Alfie, let's get into the general structure of the show. I think this is a good time to do so. We'll start with how do you think we should do this? Should we start positive or should we start negative? Because I'm a little bit confused, because I'm very happy with the result, but I am anxious about injuries, as I have been for the majority of the season.
I think we should start positive.
Okay.
I think
that's kind of what I had in mind.
Get off to a positive start on the new platform.
There you go. And then we'll let them all live their merry lives in a depressed fashion after they're done listening to us. That sounds like a great idea. Okay, let's start positive then. We'll start with good stuff. Folks, if you're new to the show, how we break it down is essentially 3 different parts. We say good stuff, canon concerns, and explosive moments. Good stuff is, you guessed it, good stuff from the game. Canon concerns are stuff that concerns us from any given game, or maybe even long-standing concerns. And then explosive moment is the main moment that really decided the match, or whatever it may be. That's kind of vague. And that kind of sets up the show for some sort of debate. Because sometimes we talk about, sometimes we have different beliefs on what exactly the explosive moment was. Anyway, good stuff. You want to go first? You want to fire away with your positives from the win against Fulham?
Absolutely. And just on the explosive moment, I'll be shocked if there's disagreement with this explosive moment in this game. And something I forgot to mention, if you're watching, got this lovely little retro shirt, JVC, on. New number that I've just bagged as a present. Anyway, good stuff from the game. I might get out the tactics board in this part. I'm going to say I think there were good stuff from each half. And I think the first half, the good stuff is the domination of possession. Yes, it was quite dull. Yes, it was sterile. But we dominated possession. We dominated territory. I think Fulham actually had a bit more of the ball than it felt like. And I think we can get the stats up for the game here. So I'm going to share the tactics board at this point, because why not?
Oh, let's
have a
go.
bit of fun. And bear with us if it's a bit clunky at the start. We're getting used to it. Here we go. Oh, and it's
Beautiful.
yeah.
Shout
It's,
out
and it's
Raul
two
Jimenez. Let's
teams.
go.
Let's shout out Real Jimenez. How do I hide us? Yeah, again, forgive us. There we go. Right, so we're both absent from the screen now, so I can play around with this a bit. I think first half we kept the ball well. We really suffocated them. I think they were very isolated up front with Jimenez and Smith Rowe and Traore. And I think we kind of penned them in well. I think at the end of the first half, they had 2 shots, and both were sort of speculative long range efforts. So that was good. And I also thought, I guess we'll get into individuals a bit later, but Martinelli looked really promising in that first half. But I quite liked some of the triangles we were playing with Rice and Lewis Skelly. I think I'll get rid of Fulham here. There we go. We had Martinelli in these sorts of areas. And again, this is a great reason to get over to our Patreon or our BigUp. Let me just bring us back on the screen. Just bring the players up. We had a few nice sort of triangular patterns on this side. Martinelli was making these runs. I think there was one moment where Neri came over to this side and Martinelli had the ball.
Maybe describe what side you're talking about for the audio listener.
So this is the left-hand side of the pitch. Martinelli had the ball sort of out wide here, which is on the far left channel. I think he played it inside. I can do arrows. Look at this. This is so fun. Fucking love this. He slipped it in there.
Oh god, Alfie has way too much power with this platform. We have to take this away from him.
He slipped it in there, and then Rice played a nice little ball into here. Neri brought it, and I think Neri just sort of run it out of play. But there were some nice patterns going on. We didn't really create an awful lot. I think there was one moment where Martinelli, and by the way, if we get to 100 followers on this, we get actual footage to play with. So that's another reason to subscribe. Martinelli, great cross. Neri had a shot on goal. That's probably our only real moment. But yeah, generally first half, my main kind of concern is it was kind of similar to what we've seen, which hasn't been very inspiring, but it was still relatively effective in that if we'd continued playing like we had in the first half, in the second half, we probably would have won the game in a very boring manner, but we would have won the game nevertheless. The second half was very different, but I guess we'll get to that. I'll let you chime in first half and stuff.
Yeah. No, it's interesting with Arsenal at the moment. And we said good stuff, but then you went into canon concerns, Alfie. So we're going to do a U-turn here, but that's all right. With regard to the first half and stuff, it's kind of just like typical Arsenal in some ways, in like a negative sense, at least for me. Some people maybe don't see it as super negative because, like you said, we're not really conceding very many chances. That's kind of our floor. Like, we limit teams to nothing, which is great. That's the thing that comes with having a super organized structure and dominating all the territory. But with, I think with that control and with that maybe just obsession with dominating the territory, we do, and I've said this many a times in the Arsenal Canon podcast, I do think we sometimes kind of take too long to get to the goal. And by the time we do, there's so many defenders back there. The defense of an opposition is effectively set. You know, they know where they need to stand because we took so long to get into the dangerous positions. But I do like what you were talking about, what you were pointing to. There was just a very big overload on the left-hand side, which was really good because Arsenal for the past couple seasons, we've really associated with overloading the right-hand side. And, you know, you think of guys like Bukayo Saka, Ben White, Martin Odegaard. Martin Odegaard not himself this season. Ben White basically just hasn't been here for most of the season. And then Bukayo Saka missed over 3 months, obviously returned to the fold, and we'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, so yeah, my concern, I guess, is again just more of the slow, same old kind of a thing. But I don't want to just be like a broken record or anything, because I do truly think that does just kind of come down to the fact that we have so many attackers just missing from the fold. Like, I know that Bukayo Saka came back in this game as a substitute. Like you said, Martinelli had a fantastic first half. Marino's trying his best to play the striker role best he can. We just had
there's a
Alfie
moment
disappear.
about Marino. Sorry to interrupt. There's a moment about Marino which I want to use the tactics board for. I'll get to that.
Okay, you disappeared off my screen, FYI. You're a Arsenal Cannon
Did I?
podcast logo with a circle. Yeah.
Still?
Yeah. I don't know what happened there.
That is strange. This is the issue with the live game. There are some potential pitfalls.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still here on mine, so.
Okay. Well, good. That's all that matters.
At least you can hear me.
That's what really matters.
We'll have to follow this up with Ali.
Yeah, no problem. Brand new, so still wet behind the ears. Okay, well, we're just talking about concerns and stuff, and we both kind of chimed in with a little bit. Was there a particular moment about Marino that you just touched on that you want to talk about, and any other concerns and stuff? Obviously, we have a big one that we haven't got to yet, but just before we get to the main course, was there any other appetizers of sorts that you wanted to dig into?
Yeah, I feel like the way this is planning out, we're kind of discussing the game, the first half and second half separately, which I think makes sense because I think they were so different. Yeah, the tactics board, which I'll bring back up. Love it. Can you see that? Just checking. Yeah. So there was a moment. Let me get rid of these. This is terrible for the audio listeners, but again, subscribe to the Patreon so you can see this. There was a moment where I think Martinelli had the ball out wide on the left. Declan Rice is about here. Bring Odegaard into the picture. So Martinelli has the ball. Can I get Fulham's team back up? Here we go. Castagna, he's one-on-one with Castagna, Anderson and Diop in here. Cuenca, tight back for Nwaneri's back post. Fucking love this, mate. Forget the deep players. Martinelli has the ball here, one-on-one with Castagna. Brilliant burst of pace. Gets past him with the ball. Takes it to the byline. Anderson and Diop sort of stay in this area. Cuenca's here. What you want here is you want someone to collapse the box. You want one of Odegaard or Marino, preferably Marino because he's the striker, to make this run. If you look right there, had to bring that out. You want Marino to make this run into the space so that Martinelli has that option. And then you want Odegaard to peel off here.
But between the center backs, that is for the audio listeners, by the way. He wants Marino to make the run through the center backs.
To collapse the box. And then Odegaard. So you have one basically coming across right in front of the goal. And you have one collapsing the box and being there for the cutback. Or for anything that drops and spills out if there's some collision in here. What they both did is... If I can get rid of these arrows. Fucking hell. There we go. They both just stood here. And Martinelli...
both stood on the edge of the box. Yep.
They both stood on the edge of the box, ready for the cutback. Which you can't really blame them because they're both midfielders. And that is what they would normally do. And Martinelli couldn't reach both of them because they're both marked because they didn't make the smart movements. What Havertz would normally do is he'd make this run in here. And Martinelli tried to find the cutback, but it just wasn't possible. And it was a brilliant bit of skill and pace from Martinelli initially. And I think Diop, cut it out. But it was a moment where our system worked perfectly because what positional football, you have your 5 and 5 at the back and 5 in the different lanes of attacking areas. Obviously, right 8, left 8, the 2 wide players staying wide. And you had basically what that system needs is your wide players to be extremely effective in one-on-ones. And they are basically open the game up for you. Everyone else is just there for sterile possession. And Martinelli hasn't been good enough at that season, which is partly why our attack hasn't been good enough because we need a wide player who's excellent in one-on-ones, and Martinelli hasn't been that. But in this game, he was, and this was our system working. But then we didn't have the striker to capitalize on it because Marino couldn't make that run. I don't know if you remember the moment; it was really early, but it was like the first time Martinelli showed great pace to get him beyond. And yeah, that was my point on Marino. I've seen a lot of praise for him from this game. And yeah, he scored again. Bit of a lucky goal. He gives us the lead. Nice interplay with Neri. Nice slip ball from Timber. See if I can bring him in. So I just really love using this. Oops.
I could tell.
Bros
on Sky Sports.
Timber in here. I am. If you look right there, Timber has the ball in here. I'm just playing out the goal. Slips it in. Neri cuts it back. Marino's here. Bang. Oops.
The world's
Bang.
Yeah, make sure you
deflect
it. Yeah. Probably the most Mikel Merino goal you've ever seen, some may say. Yeah. It's just extremely agricultural, like very Indeed. I'm just going to whack the ball towards the net and kind of hope it goes in. And well, that's why you do that, because sometimes it does.
Yeah, it was a strange goal. We've got a comment. Big up, my guy. Yeah, it was a strange goal. But my point about Marino is there's a lot of praise for him because he's scoring goals. I'm going to have to be that guy and say this is not sustainable. I spoke about in the last podcast how he's averaging something like 0.12 expected goals per 90 minutes as a striker, which if he was doing that from midfield, you'd say, yeah, that's all right. For your striker to be doing that, that is not great. And he's averaging, I think he had 2 shots in this game, the goal, and then there was one in the second half where he pounced on a loose ball inside the box. He's not going to keep scoring goals at this rate. He had 0.07 XG in this game. He's massively outperforming his XG. He's not getting volume of chances, and I'm not trying to blame him because he's not a striker. It's not his fault. But he's not gonna keep this up. I'm sorry to say.
So what are you getting at with this? Are you saying that you don't think that this should continue going into this season, or maybe the praise is like overblown?
So a bit, but basically what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of talk about his goal scoring exploits, and we kind of, if you look at that a bit more in depth, you'll see that he's running very hot in front of goal, and you can kind of see with some of the goals he scored, like, is he going to score that flicked header at the near post against Chelsea every time? No. Is he going to have that luck with the deflection off Cuenca? No. Is he going to use his aura to have that PSV player give him the ball inside the box and he slots it? Probably not. That player's not going to fall over every time. Like, he's not.
I did not know anybody thought Mikel Merino had aura. That is amazing.
He's doing some things that I'm like, yeah, this is useful. Like, he's really good in the air. And that allows us to keep playing it long with Raya, and it allows us to, stay with our playing style that we had with Kai Havertz. He's pressing well, I think. I think our press still looked effective in the first half. But I think as a striker, you need your striker to get shots, and you need your striker to get good shots. And he isn't really doing that. And again, I'm not trying to blame him because he's just not a striker. But as I explained with that cutback moment with Odegaard, he just doesn't have those sort of subtle nuances inside the box of where to, position himself to get on the end of things. And I think we can sort of acknowledge that he does good stuff, but I think my main point is that if we are all thinking, oh, this guy's scoring at an elite rate now, or a very good rate, and he can keep that going, I'm just saying, trying to throw some caution to the wind and say, I think that's the phrase. I think that's probably not going to continue when you look at his numbers. Like, it would be insane if it did. So yeah, that's basically my main point about Marino. But that's first off, yeah.
I think I agree with that. And here's my thing with Marino. First of all, let's preface all this by saying that Marino also scored a couple goals on national duty for Spain. He scored one in the shootout and he scored a stoppage time equalizer against Holland. So he is clearly just in very good goal scoring form. And sometimes very good goal scoring form is simply not sustainable. Especially, going by the numbers. You said 0.07 XG from this game and he scored. I mean, that's the epitome.
And it's like, since he started as a striker, he's not had more than 0.2 XG in a game, or more than 2 shots.
And here's where I am on that. So I think I think you're right to throw caution to the wind for sure. But having said that, I think there's an understanding from Arsenal fans that this is not going to be a thing. Probably, I genuinely don't think Mikel Merino. I'm gonna touch wood here. I'm on a wood dining room table. I don't think Mikel Merino will play at striker more than a couple times next season. Maybe just in like a dead rubber fixture for a few minutes. And
I'm not sure he ever will.
Maybe he never will.
If Havertz is fit.
And Havertz does tend to stay fit. So if we bring in, Victor Gyökeres, who we're heavily linked to, Benjamin Sesko, or maybe even Alexander Isak, which we're not holding our breath for that. And so we have 2 striker options in Havertz and that striker. I just don't think this will ever be a thing. So while throwing caution to the wind, I do think it's also important to note that this is just kind of a shitty situation, and it's great to see Mikel Merino continually putting the ball into the back of the net, because Mikel Merino was really viewed by all of us as just a complete catastrophe of a signing. Like, I think a lot of us, and they said this on the Arsenal Vision podcast recently, a lot of us associate him with, the reason we didn't bring in attacking reinforcement during that summer, because we put so much time and energy to getting Mikel Merino over the line. And then a lot of people also wanted to have a more attacking midfielder in our midfield cohort anyway, which Mikel Merino is definitely not, by the way. So it's, for me, it's just good to see that, Merino's continuing to score goals, because life has just really was not great for him. But before he got moved up to the striker role. And what I do really admire about the player is just his willingness to go there. And you're hearing him say all the right things in the interviews, saying that, he really wants to learn the position and do things for the team and do what's best for us. He's got his little trademark celebration where he runs around the corner flag. You could tell he's really just relishing and enjoying every moment of this. And I think he needs to, because frankly, going into this season, I think, look, it's all fine and dandy looking long-term and saying, next season we're going to have, whoever it is, Gyökeres and Kai Havertz as striker examples, or as our strikers. This season, that's not the case. We're not going to have Kai for the rest of the season, and we're not going to have a new striker. So Mikel Merino is the role,
doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah. And that's the thing. And while throwing all this caution in the wind, again, I think it is important to note that Mikel Merino is scoring goals. Like, imagine if we put him up there and he just didn't score at all. Then we'd be having a hell of a lot different of conversations, and we'd have to be playing every week
with a little bit less luck, or some, let's give him credit. The finishes against Leicester were excellent. He might not have scored any. So that's all I'm trying to say. I'm just saying, don't expect this goal scoring form to continue. But he can still be effective for us as a striker if other options are thriving. Oh, there's Ali. Big up. Should we move on to the second half and Saka?
Let's talk about the rest of the canon concerns, I would say, which are the...
I'll let you host.
Yeah, was that That was not the second half. Big Gabby got injured in the first half.
We can get into that, yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about the elephant in the room then. Arsenal. Alfie, whenever Arsenal get given something good, we also get something good taken away. We had Bukayo Saka returning. That's obviously going to be probably the main good stuff, apart from the fact that we just got 3 points on the board. But Yeah, Big Gabby goes down early on in the game, holding his hamstring. There was a big, beautiful article that came out, by the way, today from the Telegraph speaking about how common hamstring injuries have become in the Premier League. I guess over 100 hamstring injuries or something this season. Shout out Rob Bertha, member of the podcast.
Rob's in the chat.
Let's go. So this is I want to preface this conversation by saying that this hamstring issue is bigger than Arsenal, because I know we could kind of, as a supporter, and this is normal, by the way, you kind of tend to only look at your back garden and say, why are all of our guys getting hamstring injuries? Well, there's been over 100 hamstring injuries, and like 4 of those have been ours. So this is very common. This is a big problem in the Prem. And Alfie, Gabriel is the latest victim to it. Just probably getting injured at the least ideal time possible. I would argue, going into that Real Madrid set of fixtures in the Champions League, that our defense is probably actually more important than our attack. And well, now our best defender of the season has gone down with a hamstring injury, and those at the very least tend to just be for a few weeks. So when it rains, it pours for Arsenal. Alfie, how you feeling?
Devastated. Simply.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. We will see you on the next.
You couldn't write it, could you? It does feel like we get one positive and then one negative thrown straight back at us. Extremely concerned about the potential Jakub Kiwior against Kylian Mbappe matchup. Hopefully Mbappe's banned and they have the four players banned and he doesn't play. But like this, I guess this will feed into the second half discussion, because I'll be talking about Kiwior in this section. On the ball, I thought he was good. Like, he can pass the ball, really comfortable in possession, some really nice line breaking passes. Defensively, and this is the thing, like, preface this by saying, on paper, he's supposed to be our 8th choice defender. If you think about our defensive cohort as like a, revolving cast, like technically almost all of them could play any position. So you kind of have a pecking order of 8, and if one guy falls out, you can put some guy in there and you can sort of rearrange things. It's not like we have set left backs, set right backs, set centre backs, if you get what I mean. I mean, obviously some of them do just play in one position, but so theoretically he should be down there as like the 8th choice guy. If you think of Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, Calafiori, White, Lewis Skelly, Tomiyasu if he was ever fit, and then it's Kiwior.
Who the hell is
and
that
you could even put Zinchenko in there. Zinchenko would start over him at left back. So if as the 8th or 9th choice defender, he's probably like the best in the world. If you look at all squads, the issue is we've got this injury crisis.
That's a great merch idea for Kiwior. I'm the best 8th choice defender in world football.
When you look at his standing in the squad, like, he's actually a good option compared to most players in a similar role at other clubs. But we've got this terrible injury scenario. Calafiori's out, Timber's potentially out, hopefully not. And obviously Gabriel, and you're not going to play Zinchenko centre back or Tierney. So he's probably going to have to start in the Real Madrid tie, unless Ben White's back, and maybe you could put Timber at centre back. But I'm not sure about Ben White's fitness status at this point, whether he's ready to play against Vinicius, which is a bit concerning as well, given how little he's played. But yeah, Kiwior in the second half, stepping up into stupid positions. The Rodrigo Muniz header from about 2 yards out, which he somehow misses, is a result of Kiwior just absolutely being stranded in no man's land, and then Iwobi does well. It's also partly Partey playing at right back at that point, and he gets really exposed down that side. And then the goal as well, it's sort of a miscommunication between Kiwior and Miles Lewis-Skelly on their left side. But I think when you've got an 18-year-old playing left back, you want an imperious force next to him to sort of guide him through some defensive moments, particularly when you're playing Real Madrid. And Kiwior just doesn't have that sort of presence or aura, as you could say, on the pitch. And yeah, as I said, good on the ball, but defensively there's issues. And I kind of think for an 8th choice defender, you expect him to play like a few League Cup games here and there. You want a guy, League Cup, you're probably going to dominate the ball. You want a guy who's good on the ball. You don't really care if he's not the greatest defensively, he's not the quickest, but then he's been forced into these matches. So, yeah, extremely concerning, and really just gutting that Gabriel had to go. He's one of the players I'd probably put up there as are most important for the Real Madrid tie specifically. So yeah, that's a concern.
It is. And yeah, to be honest with you, Alf, my two most important guys going into that fixture are probably Gabriel and Jurriën Timber. And Timber also went down. So that's kind of where we are right now. And I'm not even just saying that for entertainment's sake. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. That is the reality. We need Gabriel to play against Kylian Mbappe, and we need Jurriën Timber to play against Vinicius Jr. And now both of those guys went down in this game. Timber got to kind of play on for a little bit after holding his knee, so I'm kind of crossing my fingers.
I was like, this guy's come back from an ACL. He's clutching his knee, and you're making him play on. This is how he did his ACL last time.
Well,
and Arteta was not positive after the game about Timber.
Well, we'll see what happens. There's no point speculating and making ourselves nervous. We just kind of have to roll with the punches and see what the reality is. I do think Arteta does need to work on that a little bit, though. If a player's off the back of an ACL, I know you might not want to make the change, but dude, come on, you got to think we've talked about that in previous podcasts. I think Arteta sometimes being reckless in the wrong ways, and then maybe not being reckless in the right ones. But anyway, that's maybe a topic of conversation for another day. I'm going to talk about all three of those guys here in a second. And I'm going to start with Kivior, actually. And I'm going to do something that people might not expect, and I'm going to praise Kivior. I think that you're spot on, Alfie. He's very good on the ball. He is not a very good defender. There's no two ways about it. Like you said, though, probably the best 8th choice defender in world football. But he does just come off as quite naive sometimes, and he doesn't really know where he's supposed to be standing. He just very easily gets out physicaled sometimes. You think about that match against Sporting earlier in the season where Gabriel and William Saliba really had Victor Gyökeres completely locked down. And then as soon as Gyökeres kind of started targeting Kivior a bit later on in the game, he came on as a substitute for some reason. I'm sure you remember the context. I don't.
Sporting game, yeah. I think Gabriel went off injured.
Okay. It's been a rough season for Gabriel. He's gone down a couple times. But anyway, yeah. But anyway, once Gyökeres really started targeting Kivior, you could really just see the kind of gulf and class between them, and see that Kivior, though being very technically proficient, I think, and good on the ball, is just quite diminutive for a center back, and just, again, it's not anywhere near the level of Saliba and Gabriel, obviously. But what I will say for Kivior, I like how I said I was going to praise him, then I just started shitting on him for a minute. What I will say for him is he is very serviceable in the role that he's playing, and he's had to be called on a few more times this season than we would have liked, and he just keeps coming on and going about his business. And what you could say for Kivior, I know he doesn't play a lot, so maybe that could be the reason why, but Alfie, he doesn't get injured. I know he's not getting a ton of minutes and stuff, but he is training with the team. How many injuries have we seen this season where a player gets injured in training? And that's not happening to Kivior. He's the
only defender in our squad who hasn't had a single injury this season. Well, one of the only players, him and Jorginho.
Yeah, well, and then that does automatically make you look at workloads and stuff like that, which is completely normal. But I do think that is truly a credit to Kivior, that he is always available. When an emergency comes up, and God knows tons of them have come up this season, he is always there to fill in, whether it be a left back or center back. Kivior will come in and he will try his best to do a job for you. Is he the ideal solution? Of course he's not, man. He's an 8th choice defender. But I really respect what he's been able to do for us this season. And I think fundamentally this is just kind of what happens when you have a center. Let's be honest. Kivior is I think, just a left center back who's supposed to be playing in a back three. That's it. He's not quite a left back.
That's what
He's
he
not
does for
quite a center
Poland.
back. Exactly. And that's just where that's the system he's supposed to be playing in. So I don't think we could really hold it against him.
Bring up the tactics board for a sec.
Yeah.
Let me. Is this?
Alfie's gagging to use the tactics board.
I've done something wrong here.
Oh.
There we go.
We're clear.
Let me just get rid of us. Something that he does, and I'll switching him. There we go. Something that he does, which is concerning when you think about what Mbappe could do, is bring everyone up. Use my mouse. And if you're listening, go and watch us instead on BigUp so you can see this. Jimenez will peel onto him. Jimenez will make this run into the space. Kivior will follow him, and you'll get a runner going in beyond. And he did that like twice yesterday, and it was infuriating me. You've got to know that. Hand him over to Partey. I know you don't want Partey, touch tight on an attacking player, because that's also concerning. But he's got to have the awareness to do that. He just leaves gaping holes, which Saliba has to mop up. He did that a few times. He's done it a few times this season, I think. If you think back to that League Cup game against Palace, they score in like the first minute through Mateta because he is just in no man's land in midfield, and it just leaves Timber by himself. I think it was the player on that day. Yeah, it's quite concerning. And yeah, it's something we'll probably talk about when we get to Real Madrid in future podcasts, but I'd look for an alternative. Should we get onto the more positive stuff, though?
Yeah, this is getting pretty grim, or pretty bleak. Just lastly, I mean, yeah, I don't think we had a great. You were a little bit more confident of going into the game against Real Madrid, I think, than the average Joe. But I guess I'll just spring you this question: where's your confidence level now with the loss of Gabriel and Jurriën Timber?
It's kind of, well, it's definitely gone down because I thought we'd have Saka back anyway. So we've kind of just lost what I thought we were going to have. So yeah, it's definitely gone down. And yeah, it's just because the basically what I thought was the minimum floor of our performance would be that, yeah, Real Madrid have a lot of good attacking players, but they don't necessarily function particularly well as an offensive unit together at the moment. If you then, a little gif from Gabriel from Ali. If you, the thing I was confident of is that we'd be able to negate them pretty well because we're so excellent defensively, and now that's kind of been dented somewhat with that individual Mbappe Kivior battle. And you just know Mbappe is not going to be peeling onto his mate Saliba when he goes out there. He's going to see Kivior immediately and place himself on there. Yeah, should we talk about Saka and the second half? Because I thought it was a really interesting second half, to be honest. Much more exciting than some of our other games. Yeah,
yeah.
This is our first game since the Havertz injury where we managed over 2 expected goals. I think we had 2.4 or something. Obviously, a lot of it comes from that Saka header, basically tap-in. But yeah, that's positive in a way. And I think it was like 0.6 at half time, and then we ended with 2.4, which shows how the game swung a little bit in the second half as we opened up a bit. As I said earlier, the game became a bit of a basketball match, and they also were leaving a few more gaps. And yeah, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, it was it was much better. And something I liked as well was just Gabriel Martinelli just kind of started looking like himself, just like trying always to run at defenders and stuff. And obviously he capped off the positive performance with just beautiful assist to Bukayo Saka. But yeah, that's a great. I did not know that stat. It's a good stat you brought to the table that we expected more than 2 expected. Got more than 2 expected goals for the first time without Kai Havertz. Is crazy, by the way, considering he was out injured, February or something. So yeah, hey, that's great. We need to to generate chances because there's still some season to play, even if there really is nothing to play for. But Alf, I'm just going to formally get into my main good thing here, and it's just the fact that I always, me, I always take the simple one. and it's just the fact that Bukayo Saka returned. What an ovation for the young man coming back on after 101 days on the sideline. Going 100 days without Saka should be illegal. That was really stunting my joy as an Arsenal fan. I said to our We Love You Arsenal Productions group chat the other day that I did not realize how responsible Saka was for all of my joy as an Arsenal fan. Like, I knew he was our best player. I knew he was my favorite player, but I didn't know that once he went down, I would really start enjoying Arsenal about 80% less, or maybe even more, to be honest. So great to see, Alf. I know you were, doing work journalism wise while, watching this moment. So talk to me about how it made you feel, because I just found myself literally, I was watching this game while working, and I just wanted to stand up and give him an ovation, and applause from Southwest Florida. So how are you feeling?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was obviously watching on your Peacock account using my Surfshark VPN. So I was, a couple minutes behind the actual game. And I had a notification come up on my phone saying 2-0 Arsenal. It didn't say the scorer, though. So I was like, oh.
Welcome to my life as an American fan, Alfie, by the way.
I was like, oh, could it be Saka? Imagine it's Saka. And as I was thinking that, looked at the screen, I saw Martinelli burst in between the lines. Brilliant bit of pace. That's something we haven't seen, taking the ball away from a defender and making sure they can't catch up with him. Really good. Nicely weighted ball, an intelligent ball into Marino. Marino actually does very well to scoop that into Martinelli's path. Unbelievable assist. Like, that is, I saw loads of people saying he remembered he's Brazilian with that. That is dirty. That is a world-class touch. And people who say Martinelli's kind of he lacks the flair. He's very head down, kind of a workman-like, not particularly aesthetically pleasing footballer on the eye. Well, I mean, that is exquisite. That's an incredible piece of skill.
Can I just kind of cross off and say, by the way, that is true. I think. I don't think that's crazy for people to say that.
No, he's not like, it's not like watching Neymar with his pieces of skill that he can produce, but he still showed that he is capable of, outrageous moments of skill, and he did in this moment. And it's unbelievable. And yeah, seeing Saka back post, the reception he got was unbelievable. It was beautiful to watch. And yeah, it was. I think if I was in the stadium, it would have been like one of the. I wish I was there. It would have been one of the top moments of the season in terms of like the emotion of it. Like a 2-0, scoring 2 to make it 2-0 at home to Fulham. In a kind of, not dead rubber, but when we're not really competing for anything, there's not much jeopardy. And to have those limbs just shows you how big a moment it was. And it just felt written in the stars. Like 2 minutes after he's come on, he's had like 2 touches of the ball at this point. And by the way, he looked sharp. He looked really sharp. And you saw instantly how much better we looked. Like, genuinely. He came onto the pitch. Odegaard, all of a sudden. Yeah, and by the way, this is something I did mention in Canon Concerns. I think Odegaard and Waneri kind of struggled to play together at times on that side, because I think at the moment, Waneri is not really an out-and-out winger. He's played most of his time as an 8, and they just don't really have that relationship. They don't have the patterns that Saka and Odegaard are able to produce. And immediately when Saka comes on, he just shows us what we've been missing in terms of the outlet he provides. Like, we were feeding him the ball in difficult positions, and he was like turning a man and bringing it inside. He had a couple nice interchanges with Odegaard. There's one moment where I think Saka's involved, but Timber drives forward into the space, and it's a beautiful 1-2 with Odegaard, and Timber almost scores. We just looked more fluid and more dynamic immediately. And I know the game's a bit more stretched at that point as Fulham are, trying to get a foothold in the game. And they eventually did with those 2 late chances, the goal and the Muniz header. But yeah, just a really euphoric moment. And the club needed it. Like, I think we needed some sort of lift, some sort of injection of life before the Real Madrid tie, and we got it with just a beautiful moment. So, love it, love him, love that he's back. And I mean, this podcast can only be titled one thing when it goes out on Spotify. He's back, or SAKBACK, SAKBACK, you know, like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. We'll think of something funny. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like, this season for Arsenal has just been so unbelievably just bleak, as I said earlier. It's been depressing. Nothing has been going our way. The mighty Liverpool just basically don't get injured. They just are a completely impenetrable force who just look like the world's most fit team. While we just continue to get injured. Like, it's got to the point now where, you know, we're having players literally get injured multiple times a season. It's just been that kind of campaign for us. So this Saka return, I needed it as a supporter, so I'm sure that other people did as well. Like, it just, when he came onto the pitch as a substitute, and I don't think I've ever seen this before, Alf. When he stood up off the bench, I heard the crowd like, whoa, like get like excited and like start cheering and stuff. Like, just
it's like that clip of Messi running down the touchline in the new camp, and the whole stadium goes mental when he goes to warm up. You seen that?
Yeah, yep. Yeah. That's exactly what it was like. I mean, we all know this guy's our best player, and then along with that as well, we all identify with them because he loves the club just like we do. So it was just such a wonderful moment, and I really think that moments like these, we really need to try to kind of store them in the filing cabinet in your brain and really appreciate them, because this is what it's all about. Like, it's just been disappointment after disappointment after disappointment this season. It's been disappointing. And this moment was just really beautiful. And then he capped it off with scoring a goal after being on the pitch for 7 minutes. His number 7. It was like it was literally written in the stars. And then I think there was actually a stat before the game I saw. I'm probably going to butcher this. That like the last time Saka went more than 5 games or something without scoring, he broke his duck against Fulham. So it was just like it was quite literally just meant to be, and it was just so great.
And also the narrative of him scoring a back post header away at Fulham, which was disallowed.
Oh yeah, true.
In the season.
Good point.
Nice little narrative to add in there. Yeah,
true, very true. And you know, also just kind of making the game a non-event from that point, because obviously, you know, we know Fulham at the end got that consolation goal that didn't end up mattering, but Saka's goal, you know, kind of took the stress away from it and killed the match, which was great. So there was that, like, the celebration in the crowd, you could sense it was like, yeah, Saka scored. You know, we were all so excited about that. But then there was also this game's over the line. Thank goodness. So it was like you could almost sense the relief in multiple ways from that goal, which I really liked. And yeah, something I really liked as well was what you said about Saka. I think the guy looked fully fit. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, credit to him. We all know he is, you know, something of a robot. He's got a very, very impressive fitness, touching wood again, fitness record apart from this previous injury. And I think just his rapid bounce back after being out for months in this game against Fulham is really indicative of that. And I know that Real Madrid are going to be looking at us and our injury crisis at the moment and kind of licking our lips. But having said that, they're also going to see the fact that Saka's back and be like, damn it, you know, because you really just don't want to play against Saka because he is just an undeniably world-class player. So yeah, definitely a bit of good stuff that Saka is back. I'm going to take another on the nose kind of like other bit of good stuff too, is just the fact that we got the 3 points on the board. That was the most important thing going into this game. I'll be honest, Alfie, I was quite worried just because like I said at the top of the show, like Fulham truly have kind of seemed to have our number lately. Like we have a really hard time playing against them. So I'm happy we got 3 points. Was there any other good stuff that you wanted to add? But I have no idea how long we've been recording this, by the way. So anything else you wanted to add? Tell me how long we've been going for, and then we'll go from there.
I also don't know, but I do know when we started the stream, and I think it's been basically an hour. Yeah, we started at 56, didn't we?
Wow, I am a pro. Look at that. That's how you can tell we've done 271 episodes, folks. If this is your first time tuning into the Arsenal Cannon podcast.
Extravaganza. I have a couple more things. I want to use the tactics board one more time. I just want to mention Odegaard. I'll get rid of us.
Ali, if you're watching, you've ruined Alfie. You've given him too much power.
I just want to bring it into here. It's quite annoying they've got back three. Anyway, put Winery out here. What Odegaard was doing in the first half, I thought he was terrible in the first half, like really bad. He was really actually annoying me. He was getting the ball in these sorts of areas. Get the ball up. Here we go. Again, sorry for the audio listeners, but it's your issue. He's getting the ball in these areas, and he was just driving with it. He was just driving with it, didn't need the ball, into these sorts of areas. Just aggressively carrying it here. And I was like, this is something that Rice does as well, which is just not valuable. Like, you might think moving the ball into this area, okay, you can like pull defenders out of place. They have to commit to you. They just stand their ground, and then it just gets congested in this area, and then he'll just knock it off to Nwaneri. And it's like, you could have just done this. Bang. You could have just done that in the first place. You've slowed down the pace of the attack by driving into this congested area and then just knocking it off to him anyway, if you get what I mean. Second half, he stopped doing that because he had someone he could play off. And again, it's not criticism of Nwaneri, but he's more of an 8 naturally, or that's where he's played most of his career. He can develop all these things. Saka, he makes these runs in behind. He comes inside and lets Odegaard feed it. Odegaard doesn't feel like he needs to make these driving runs. And I thought second half, Odegaard looked pretty good in these sorts of areas. Instead of picking up here and driving into the space, he was picking up in these sorts of areas and looking to, play balls in behind here, loft ball crosses in. And I was like, thank God we might have Odegaard back. Now we have Saka back. The true Odegaard. I think there were some green shoots in that second half that made me quite optimistic. And Martinelli, have to touch on him. I didn't really speak about him, but oops. What do we need from Martinelli in this system? We need him to be effective in the one-on-one battles, and he showed signs that he can do that again in this game. Like, really good, going on the outside in particular. I think he needs to trust himself to come inside a few times more. I think if he's a bit more aggressive when he darts inside, he can get more shots off. He was quite willing to go on the outside, which is good. Don't get me wrong. And the quality of his crossing and cutbacks was really good in this game. But come inside a few more times and you might start scoring more goals, Gabby. But yeah, that was my last two little things to add. And I'll hand it back to Daniel Finton himself. And let me get rid of the tactics board.
Yeah.
But if you've enjoyed the tactics board, and you're watching on Patreon or YouTube or something, next time come in to BigUp and see what we're doing on there, because you can watch it live. And if you're listening, you've missed out on the tactics board, so it's truly beautiful. Anyway, let me get rid of it. There we go. Go ahead, Daniel.
What is a stronger love? Arsenal fans' love for Bukayo Saka, or Alfie's love for tactic board? You decide.
When we get to 100 followers on here, touch wood that we will.
Yep.
Just you wait until we have access to the clips.
Oh. We're just basically not going to speak. We're just going to be having
look like there. I'm going to be the new Jamie Carragher, but
and then people will be able to see, us, our true reactions to how gleeful we look when a ball goes into the back of the net, because they don't know. They have no idea. They've never seen such.
We are going to do a watch along soon, 100%.
Yep. Oh, that we've
got to do it with all four of us.
Yep, maybe some beverages that may or may not be fermented in some capacity. That would be fun. Explosive moment, Alfie. I don't think there's probably any debate here.
It's the second goal.
Kivior coming on. Yeah,
Kivior leaving his man and just allowing Rodrigo Muniz to get in the back post.
My fucking defender. Let's go. Yeah, definitely the Saka goal. You could not write. I mean, people keep saying you could not write it, but can I just say that expression kind of annoys me because you genuinely very easily could write it. Like I could write way more far-fetched stuff than that. You know, like you could write it, but
yeah,
you
could write Saka comes on and scores 5. So yeah,
exactly.
You could write it.
It's quite a stupid expression when you think
it is
about
quite
it.
stupid.
You know,
I heard them say on the Transfer Flow podcast the other day. They were like, "Flatter to deceive is purely a term that's used in football, and it doesn't make any real like linguistic sense."
Flatter
to deceive. It's only a term ever used in football, never used anywhere else, and it doesn't really make linguistic sense.
I've only heard that a couple times. Use it in a sentence. I don't think I don't hear that.
It's someone who sort of underwhelmed, basically. Someone who didn't perform how you'd expect them to. Flattered to deceive.
Flattered to deceive. When you break it down, it hurts my brain trying to like assess what that actually would mean. Interesting. Yeah. You know, we've all got our own little stupid cliches that we stick to. And I do always think it's funny too, whenever you hear like one of the pundits on TV or something like sticking to some sort of cliche, and then you just hear Joe Schmoes like us start saying it. It's like, you never said that a day in your life, man. Like, what are we doing? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, pimps in between, we have sincerely appreciated you coming along to episode 271 of the Arsenal Cannon Podcast Extravaganza. Whether you listen to it audibly, whether you checked it out on the Patreon for £3.50 or $5 a month, the price of a lovely London local latte, or if you checked it out on BigUp, which, you know, I highly recommend doing so. This is a pretty cool platform. We thank you kindly. And Alfie, was there anything else you wanted to say in the form of perhaps a marketing opportunity of a lifetime?
I'd just like to say thank you to everyone that watched live. We did have some concurrent viewers who were here the whole way, so thank you very much. And yeah, thanks for the comments as well. Quite like that little addition. It's quite nice to interact live. In fact, I'm gonna like all of them. This is terrible for the audio listeners.
Wow, this is terrible for me.
Yeah. Yeah, please next time. This is only the start. We're going to build a massive community on BigUp. I've got big plans of how to do that. Some marketing, some stuff on YouTube. And yeah, we'll have watch-alongs. We'll have banter, which is one of the options for streams. And it looks pretty fun. We'll have trivia in the summer, which will be an exciting thing you can get involved in. And we might do a live drunk cast. I have to check with Ali that's fine to do live. But yeah, we might when we hit that.
That could be potentially episode. That could be devastating, to be honest. But
yeah, we'll get to episode 275. But yeah, exciting times. Yeah, if we haven't made it clear enough yet, bigup.com. The link will be in the Spotify and in the Patreon. Yeah.
And they when they get there, they do something like join community or something, and then they'll get notifications.
Join our community. And once we get to 100 members in the community, we get more access to clips, which will take the analysis to another level. And you'll get to see me go, if you look right there.
Lord knows we've heard him say it about 20 times this damn episode.
Right there.
Fucking idiot. Yeah. This is a really cool platform, and obviously it's just it's kind of in its infancy stages still, trying to pop off. So for full transparency, we're trying to help it do so with our content, and we just also like the really cool tools and stuff that they provide. So yeah, big up, and go check out bigup.com and look for the Arsenal Cannon Podcast. We're already freaking verified on the damn thing, man. We're damn important people. My marketing opportunity of a lifetime before we draw this bad boy to a close is simply, once again, going to be the Patreon, which I've already plugged like 28 times this season. What's happened more of this podcast? Has it been me plugging the Patreon, or has it been Alfie saying, "It's right there, it's right there"? The Patreon is also right there, and you should go subscribe.
Oh, that is quality Scouse accent from an American.
Thank you.
It's right there. Feel up my ear.
Yours is quality, I have to say. What a fucking dork.
Heard too many of them. Trust me.
Oh, damn. Brutal. I can't say the same. I don't think I've ever actually heard one in person. There's not many of those hanging out in rural Florida, to be totally honest with you.
Those scum.
Okay, all right. There might be some in the live chat.
I'll be shocked.
Anyway, check out the Patreon. £3.50 or $5 a month. You could also check us out across socials. We're on Blue Sky at just the Arsenal Cannon Podcast. We're at Instagram, we.love.letter-u Arsenal. It is right off. And yeah, we put out a lot of really good stuff, and we appreciate your support. And we will see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.